if we were picking on particular regions, obviously one area that's very obvious to isolate is China. We've already stated publicly that the banking asset growth there has been fourfold over 6 years. We think there's a reasonable chance of a banking crisis, but equally it's one that China can afford. They might shade down from one rating to another, but it's absolutely not a case of China going Greece. It's really down to the success or failure of the policymaker, the official sector approach right now, and the degree to which, if that gets off the rails, in this particular instance as we're seeing it in the Eurozone, with the fragility that we see at the moment for, if you like, the Washington consensus approach to things, fragility at major international institutions, if that consensus is broken as we're looking at fixing the Eurozone crisis as we see it today, it's going to be a much bigger issue. So will it happen or will it won't? To the global crisis, no. We've already seen individual sector banking crises right across Europe. Is there potential for another one?
I don't believe in a big crisis either, but I think we're going to see a whole string of smaller crises, so we jump from one kind of ice block to the next one. And I think people are nothing else scared now, so I think they will put all the efforts together to fix every little crisis. And the other thing is that you got significant growth in most of the emerging markets, and that's a very strong underlying trend on that side.
The information is flowing faster. More people have access to information than have ever had in their lives. That means markets react faster. And if technology is enabling the pace of innovation to accelerate, then I think it's going to be incumbent on all of us to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And when we think about re-regulation after these more frequent crises, we probably have to move more quickly.
I have to say that we need to recover investors' confidence, and we need to recover by doing things, not only by promising. So it's time to deliver. Deliver in transparency, deliver in regulation, deliver in coordination, and also giving more importance to a word that has disappeared, which is ethics.
Firstly, we are finding ourselves in a very serious environment of uncertainty, and from the point of view of the fundamentals of the economic development, these uncertainties are very weak, and these fundamentals are very weak. Within the next 2 years, the models for the development should change, the interest rates should grow, the budget deficits need to be considerably reduced. The growth in China may not be sufficient. The overheating that we see there may end up in a soft exit from it, or much more rigid one, because this whole list of challenges may work out. I would basically put 25% that within the next 3 years there could be considerable worsening, and that may not flow into the global recession, but a considerable recession of some major economic areas.
I think we have the US imbalances in the real estate sector, we have the huge fiscal challenges, we have asset inflation in parts of Asia, we have the European debt crisis, we have uncertainties in Northern Africa and the Middle East. If this all comes together in the perception of investors, I think we could again be challenged in quite a substantial way.
But as I say again, the warning is we're all optimistic, so probably it pays to be a pessimist.
So next G20 will probably be a very important moment in order to show whether we still have the will, whether we still have this feeling of togetherness to really address the issues in a proactive way.
Will we have another crisis? Absolutely. We will have another collapse because free markets are messy. And I think broadly speaking, when you look across the world, we're faced with a few issues that are very much similar, and that is we are looking at a slower growth story globally. Whether it is the Western world, where you're seeing the growth slow down because of debt levels, or whether it is inflationary pressures, rising currencies like what's happening in Brazil, China, actively trying to slow down the economy. More government is not necessarily good government in terms of the regulatory environment.
And we got to have growth in the United States, and we have to have growth in Europe again, and the best way to do that is to focus on what's going to create jobs over the next 5 to 10 years. Let's not focus on little things at the margin. Let's focus on the basics and get people back to work.
And even if this is because we have started talking about regulation, coordination, solidarity, burden sharing, but really we have done very, very little in that. So of course I can ask my citizens for some sacrifices. They have probably to do that. In the most solidarity, I think, behavior, but of course they have all the right to ask this not happen again.
We're talking about the emerging markets growing, but if you start to look at the countries, it's the BRICS, it's the Turkey, it's Mexico.
It is not a question of Greece alone, and that was one of the major mistakes we made many years ago, that we felt a 2.5% contribution to the European GDP is marginal. It is not, because the perception is that you could have contagion into other and even bigger countries. Now we are in a one currency system where you cannot have a pricing adjustment mechanism as we had in the more floating rate environment. So Greece and Italy and others constantly could devalue the currency. That's no longer possible. The only way to match it is by reducing costs or increasing productivity. Now the key question is, what is the political support for these measures which are necessary in order to come from the imbalanced situation to a new equilibrium in the future? Euro is not only a currency. Euro is a political initiative, and it's so important to Europe that we do everything, not only to defend the euro, but to defend the European idea. And in that sense, I think we should, whatever it costs, be willing to support that.
There is no trust to anyone, so we should keep our savings in something else. And this probably shows that we have serious problems in the financial sector, because people do not trust any currency.
But let's remind ourselves, those are all global problems. We are all together in the same boat. So we have to learn how to live together in the same boat. How can we cope with the complexity? I don't think we lack the solutions. We lack the attention span to take care of all those issues in a strategic, proactive manner.
It also takes leadership to ensure that the difficult decisions and solutions are being taken. At the end of the day, it really is about confidence. Confidence in economies, confidence in global markets, in order to have the people believe that this is a trustworthy system, a global system that can be trusted, so that we don't have runs on banks and we don't have investors running for the freeways. And again, that takes leadership to make difficult decisions.
I'm sure that everything is in our hands, and in spite of all the difficulties that surround us, we will be able to respond to those challenges that we are confronted with. And this is not a task for our governments or for one institution. It is our common task. We should try and resolve those problems, and we shouldn't be afraid of it.